Welcome to this edition of Modern Steel Construction's Field Notes podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Weisenberger. This month, we're talking to Carol Drucker, co-founder of Drucker Zajdel Structural Engineers in Chicago, which has been involved in countless steel connection projects throughout the country. Carol currently serves on AISC's Committee on Specifications as well as several task committees, and she is being honored as one of this year's AISC Lifetime Achievement Awards for her many contributions to the steel industry, particularly thanks to her expertise in connection design, but also due to her extensive involvement with AISC. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here virtually. I know we're all in the midst of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll get to that in a bit. But let's forget about the present right now and maybe go back to some simpler times. One of the first things I wanted to know, and I always like to ask anybody who's in our industry, is what got you interested in buildings in the first place? Was there some building out there when you just walked by, you said, oh, this is what I want to do?
Well, really, it was bridges that got me into this in the first place. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and I always wanted to know how the bridges that crossed the Ohio River were designed. The bridges connect Louisville to Indiana. That, with my love of math, it was really just a natural fit to go into civil engineering. But many years later, when I was a summer intern at the Corps of Engineers, I was epically disappointed to find out from the head of structural engineering in the Louisville division of the Corps of Engineers, when I asked him, finally had my chance to ask him, how are those bridges designed? And he simply turned around and pulled the book off the bookcase, flipped a few pages and said, it's pretty much just this one. Well, fast forward decades later, and I now know it really isn't just that easy, but
of course,
it was interesting to hear that at the time.
Can you be a civilian and still work for the Army Corps of Engineers, or do you have to be in the military?
No, you can be civilian. I actually started working there the summer I graduated high school in the Louisville district. Well, the first time I was in the Fort Knox district, or really Fort Knox was in the Baltimore district, but I worked for the Corps of Engineers in Fort Knox after I graduated high school. My dad actually worked in Fort Knox too. He was a civilian working in Fort Knox. My neighbor worked in Fort Knox. We lived pretty close to Fort Knox. You're probably gathering that.
Gotcha.
After a couple years of school, I then transferred to the bigger headquarters in Louisville, which is just a little bit further north of Fort Knox.
So, I mean, you talked a little bit about getting into engineering. So how did you find your way to connection design?
Well, connection design, that was really never the intent. I was practicing EOR, typical structural engineer, designing buildings. Nothing unusual about that. But then I had a set of twins, and so I was home on maternity leave. And a local detailer, Strauss Boyce, which is now renamed Ken Boyce and Associates, asked me to do connection design while I was home on maternity leave. Well, I don't know if you have twins, but you really don't have time to be doing connection design when you have a 2-year-old and a set of newborn twins. It's too much. But when things started to calm down, I did start doing connection design for Ken Boyce. And then I started doing work for Hellmark Steel, then I did some work for AISC, and one thing led to the next, and here we are today.
So tell me a little bit about your company. How long has Drucker Zajdel been in business?
We have been in business now for almost, this August, it will be 17 years this August. I'm very excited about that. 10 years was in Naperville, and then almost 7 years in Chicago. Before Drucker Zajdel, both Marilyn and I each had our own one-man shop businesses, but we wanted to lose that one-man shop label. So we decided to combine. She did more of the EOR type work. I did more of the connection type work for contractors, and it worked really well. We really, business really did boom overnight. It really was good.
What was the kind of tipping point, so to speak, for getting the company to move from Naperville to Chicago?
Well, I think we knew all along that ultimately we would probably have to move the company from Naperville to Chicago. But we both lived in the Naperville area, and we wanted to be close to home. We had kids in school here. But we knew to grow the company and to attract more staff, we would eventually have to go there. We did also strike a deal with the people working in Naperville who wanted to move. We also had great internal pressure to move the office to Chicago. So we finally agreed, just wait for the kids to graduate high school, and then we'll move. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. A year after my youngest twins now graduated high school, we moved the office to Chicago that very summer. And now we've been there almost 7 years. We still have some stragglers here in Naperville who didn't really want to make the move with us, and that's fine. They work remote. And I don't know if people know this, but last year we also opened up a Milwaukee office. So we have a Milwaukee office now. And that is located very close to the Milwaukee School of Engineering.
Oh, okay. That makes
very,
sense.
very close.
So every year, when graduation comes along, you can just run across the street and snatch them right out of the building.
Well, that is the idea. We're really fond of Chris Rabel. We really think he's an excellent professor, and we do recruit highly out of the Milwaukee. We like all colleges, but we do recruit highly out of Milwaukee School of Engineering. It really is a good program up there.
Excellent. Well, so coming from Kentucky, I understand you went to school. I believe at Purdue and also Cal Berkeley. Can you tell me how you ended up in Chicagoland?
Well, that's right. I did from Kentucky, went to Purdue in Indiana, then off to California. But it's really no surprise that I ended up back in Chicago because both my parents were from Chicago, and I knew all along, even as a kid, that if I wanted to live here, it really was a fabulous city. I recognized that even as a small child. And it is an excellent place for a structural engineer to live. There's such wonderful architecture and engineering in this city. I kid you not, believe it or not, when I walk from Union Station to my office every day, I honestly smile just looking at the amazing engineering on the way from Union Station to my office, which is right by Willis Tower. We have Willis Tower that Fawzer Khan designed and John Zills. You can also see 151 North Riverside that Ron Klemencic and MKA did. And also now the 110 North Wacker project is just some incredible engineering. And I know a lot of hard work went into all that engineering, and their legacy will continue on. It really is a spectacular city.
Sure. And besides buildings, what do you enjoy most about the city?
Well, besides buildings, what I really enjoy about Chicago is the this diverse culture in this town. There's no shortage of things to do. I love the opera, the symphony, the Art Institute, Lake Michigan, the Riverwalk. But probably my absolute favorite thing to do is to go on the architectural boat tour. I don't know if you've ever been on that, but whenever I have out-of-town guests, that's what we do. For several summers in a row, we had our summer outing on the architectural boat tour until I think one summer they kept telling us that we were being too rowdy. So the next summer we rented our own boat and we just did our own architectural boat tour. At this point, I think we're trying to diversify what we've done. We've done the architectural boat tour enough in our office, but that is definitely one of my favorite things to do in the city.
Excellent. Would you say that that's the city's best kept secret, or do you have any others that you're willing to reveal?
Well, the best kept secret in Chicago, what I think, is the Richard Serra sculpture, not too far from AISE's office, right in the middle of Grant Park. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it really is a spectacular sculpture. And the reason why it's so cool is that it's made out of steel plate, 410 steel. It's, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 feet tall, inch thick steel. It's called the reading cones. It really is a wonderful piece of work. I'm a real big fan of Richard Serra, and as soon as the shelter in place is over, I've been wanting to actually go to New York, which is another fabulous city, to see his permanent collection at MoMA. You should check it out.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, definitely. Well, I have to ask, since you did go to school in Berkeley, is there anything you missed about California? I mean, the weather's a little nicer than here.
I miss windsurfing. I was a big windsurfer when I was in California. The ocean. I love the ocean. I really do miss that, and sailing. I don't even know if I could windsurf nowadays, but the idea is nice. Could definitely still sail. I really love the ocean.
Do you have maybe like one or two of your most memorable projects, or one that you're particularly proud of? I mean, I'm sure you're proud of them all, but is there anything that stands out?
Well, I do like the projects where there was good collaboration between the different team members with the end goal of producing a fabulous product. Those are the types of projects I really like. It's really hard to choose one particular project. They all have this like kind of a special place in my heart. It's almost like picking your favorite child. You really just don't want to do that. Having said that, if you had to choose one, if I had a gun to my head and I had to choose one, I think the project I liked the most was the Blue Cross Blue Shield vertical expansion in Chicago, where they put 30-something additional floors on top of Blue Cross Blue Shield, also very close to your office at AISC.
Right.
That was a fabulous project. We were able to do a lot of innovative things with vertical bracing. There was no shortage of problems for the team to solve together. I think if you asked all the team members what their favorite project was over the lifetime of their career, probably a lot of them would choose Blue Cross Blue Shield. We did that with surveys, and the OR on that job was Dave Ekman at MKA.
Well, so, obviously we are in the midst of an unprecedented situation with COVID-19, and I just have to ask, how have you been adapting? How have your staff been adapting to working in this environment? Is it been difficult? Has there been a silver lining?
Well, there is a silver lining, because 5 minutes before this interview, I got to go for a quick jog around the block, so that was nice. I do like that aspect. It was a beautiful day. You can get up and do a quick jog, things like that. That works out great. We are adapting. We did see it coming. We did see the global crisis coming. It truly is a horrible thing right now that we're going through, but we saw it happening in Europe, and we saw what was happening in Seattle. We were in a little bit of a denial, but nonetheless, we made sure everybody could work remote, tested the VPN, tested the remote access, made sure we all had everybody's cell phone numbers, and then sure enough, it hit Chicago, and here we are sheltering in place today. We start every day with a quick 15-minute meeting, go-to meeting. Everybody calls in. Good. Every day we go over what each person did the day before, what they are doing that day, today, and if there's any blockers, if there's anything preventing them to getting anything done, or if they need to talk to anybody or anything like that. And at first, I thought it might have been an overkill, but it turns out I think everybody likes it. It keeps us together, it keeps us communicating, and so that works out really well. The trick is that you don't want to get hung up on project specifics, because the next thing you know, 30 minutes goes by, and you really want to keep these short as possible. I myself have a problem with talking about project specific things, so we have to stop each other from doing that. But besides that, it is going fairly well. So at this point, I think we've adopted pretty good, and I think everyone actually has in our office. I'm very concerned about what's to come, and very much looking forward for the economy to return and for us getting back to work in the loop.
Well, sure, and that just well, quite literally, you want to be back working in the loop. But as far as that leads into me thinking about the construction economy itself. Are you are you seeing things continuing to come down the pipeline? Because I know in a lot of municipalities and cities and states and around the country, construction projects still seem to be going.
Yeah, they are going. That is true. We are luckily busy. We were busy before this happened, the pandemic happened, and luckily no jobs have been canceled. Usually when there are some job sites that have been shut down, but everything continues on. We have jobs on the EOR side that are still progressing into design, so that's good. The connection jobs are still even moving forward, even the ones that are in construction. We're still wrapping up connection design, even though the job site might be shut down. So everything is moving forward. So thank goodness. Let's just hope that continues on.
As with everything else, NESCC, the Steel Conference, is also being affected by the pandemic. Of course, we were scheduled to hold the conference in Atlanta. However, we have the next best thing, which is the virtual NASCC. And Carol, I understand you're going to be giving one of the sessions for that. So can you maybe just talk a little bit about what you're going to be presenting on?
Yes, I think it's a great thing that AISE is doing the virtual conference. That worked out really well. There's a lot of people an opportunity to see our presentation, which is going to be a great one this year. I'm very excited about it. We are collaborating with Fluor, Caitlin O'Donnell and Sale Lewis from Fluor, on presenting how we implement their game changer force output file that they issue with their projects. They've done a lot of innovative work, and we've done innovative work on our own to optimize connection design to really produce not only better connection design for the fabricator, but a better overall safe product for the owner. It really is fascinating stuff.
Thank you for your time, Carol. I really appreciate it. And until next time, be safe, everyone.